Hello networkers, and welcome back to another episode of As a Network Engineer, and in this episode we're going to do another troubleshooting segment. And this troubleshooting scenario that I want to talk about in this episode is something that I did hint at in one of the previous episodes that I said I wanted to save it for this particular episode to talk about an issue with a website and databases and how do you troubleshoot that as a network engineer, especially if that's not your responsibility? So I want to go ahead and start talking about that, but I first want to explain the environment so you know what that looks like. So, context here. So there is a particular company that I've done network services for, and we've been pushing a lot of more of their services up to the cloud. That's a very common thing. Companies are pushing their services up to the cloud. And so we simplified their network a lot more because they didn't need it to be that big. And one of the core parts of their business is that they have a website. That's how they run their business. And now their website is hosted in the cloud, right? And it's a great cloud provider, great performance for CPU and memory, great little dashboard that I saw. So I said, you guys are in good hands. You're going to be really good. And they have different server people that handle certain aspects of the actual job itself. Now the web server itself is running WordPress. So WordPress is a very popular piece of software that you can install to manage and create beautiful websites. They got a lot of plugins. That could be a good and a very bad thing, by the way. But it makes having an elegant professional website possible because of WordPress. Okay. So anyway, so that's basically the environment. In the company, they have very small offices and they connect to the cloud to access their applications, their mail, servers, everything. Everything's cloud-based. So they just have an office with an internet connection and a firewall. Okay, that sort of thing like that. Stuff that even I don't deal with anymore, and the company just kind of calls me on an as-needed basis. But we get to the actual problem. So a couple of weeks have passed. Again, they have migrated their website, which is running WordPress, up to a virtual cloud provider. Okay, they're happy. They're saving money that way. Until one day I get a very, very frantic phone call. I won't play that here because it's not respectful to do that. It was a very hard time for them. And they got a very frantic phone call saying that their website at certain times of the day, and it's not every day, and it's not at the same time, but their website becomes non-responsive. It just loads and loads and loads, and eventually it times out, providing a database error or something like that. Okay. So I, of course, communicate like you need to get a system administrator, a system engineer who knows about how to troubleshoot servers. And if it's a database error, then you need to definitely find a person who is more system related. I'm a network guy. That's not what we do. We don't do database or server troubleshooting. Okay. And if you go through me, it'll be a long time, and I don't know what I'm doing. Okay. You need to have this in the hands of someone that knows what they're doing and what they specialize in. So they understood that. I even recommended that you should probably contact the support vendor for that hosting company and see what kind of support they might offer, depending on what they have actually purchased. Okay, so 2 days went by or something like that. They call again. They're still frantic. They're even more frantic. Okay, this is actually impacting their business, right? And I can hear it that they are desperate. And I said, look, let me at least take a peek. If I kind of see what's going on, I can at least tell you who you should contact. All right. I try to reach out to some of my Microsoft system engineer contacts, but the server's on Linux, which means they do not know Linux. So that's going to be pretty tough. And I try to contact some of my other contacts. No one was responsive. So I told them, let me at least take a peek and see what's going on. Which meant, okay, troubleshooting time. So I looked at the problem points, which is this issue that I'm looking at is either going to be because of a recent change event. a software event or a hardware event. And that meant, what are now the points of interest? What should I be looking at? Well, I can be looking at the virtual server itself. That is one component. I can be looking at the hosting provider itself. I can be looking at maybe the internet connection, but I would have to experience that slowness myself. The error report is a database error, so I would have to also assume that one of the other components is database. So the issue is with one or more of those things that could once again be a recent change, a software or a hardware related error. Okay, so you got a network guy trying to troubleshoot a server problem, a Linux server problem. Okay, so I'm like, okay, let's keep it very, very simple, right? So I went ahead and logged onto the actual dashboard page and try to see if there's any kind of historical reports. If things are non-responsive, okay, that means that the issue is likely related to high CPU, high memory, or network congestion. Okay, so I know it's going to be one of those three things. So, but I had to wait until the issue occurred. I had to see it for my own eyes. Okay, so the issue happened. Great, I logged on. I was able to log on to the server without any problem. The virtual server, I looked at the network activity. The network activity was low. So there was no network congestion going on. I confirmed it with the actual dashboard page on the hosted provider that the company was using. Nothing showed heavy network usage. It was very, very small usage during peak times, even during this session or this part where we're getting unresponsiveness from the website. Great, so it's definitely not network related. But I did see I saw heavy CPU usage, 100%. I said, there we are. So I went ahead and logged on to the actual virtual server. We can SSH into it, perfect. I looked at the memory. The memory was not high. There was no memory leaks, swap memory, all that. Everything was perfectly fine. The memory was good. But CPU was definitely at 100%. So great, I did the next logical thing. Okay, everything runs based on processes, right? Even network equipment. There's certain processes. Like you type in show processes CPU on a Cisco router, for example, you're going to see everything that is running on the router in terms of its CPU and its memory usage. Okay, same thing applies for servers. It's not, they have more of it really. And I saw that there was one particular service or daemon that was operating at 100%, and it was the MySQL service. So great, at least now I know what's going on here. That the issue is something with the database is causing the issue for the website to become unresponsive. Okay, so that's fantastic. I found out that it's CPU 100% for the database, but that's where it stops for me. I'm not a database administrator. I've worked in large companies where there has been a dedicated database administrator. I dealt with databases probably twice in my career. And I say that really very briefly. I'm the wrong person for this. But at least I kind of have an idea what's going on here. But at the same time, this is WordPress. So I said, let me at least do some very simple research on the internet. All right. I know nothing about databases. Let me kind of see what it could be. Like, what about the database is causing it to act up and be 100% during certain times of the day? And that reminded me, let's go back one. I know that an issue is related to a recent change, a hardware or a software event. Okay, so it could definitely be maybe there's some kind of a software bug on that server. That's maybe the database version that's running, right, is basically causing an issue. Maybe there's a problem with the physical hardware on. I don't think it was the hardware though, but maybe it's something with the hardware, or maybe something changed. So I went back to the company and I told them that you are getting, your website is non-responsive because you have heavy CPU because of a database that's doing something. Okay. So I said, because once you migrated this to the cloud, you had no issues. They said yes. I said, great. Did anything change recently? Right. And they thought about it and says, yes, we actually upgraded the WordPress to the latest version. I said, okay, that's something important to know because that's a recent change. Did anything else change? They said, yes. They have like this e-commerce plugin on it. They updated that. So they updated 4 of the plugins on that WordPress website. That's very, very interesting. Something changed, and all of a sudden, you start getting non-responsive websites or website. Great. That meant that either the WordPress version was causing the issue or something with one of those plugins. So I had to do more research to kind of figure out, is there any kind of a log file of MySQL when it's like how long it takes to run queries, things like that. Because I know the basics of what a database does. I know about tables and queries. I know those details. So I was like, is there anything I can look at for logs that can tell me anything? So I did some Google searches, and eventually I did find a couple of articles that talked about there is some kind of a file like MySQL slow. I'm probably saying it completely wrong. I'm a network guy, so don't butcher me on that too much. But there's some kind of a log file. So I went ahead and looked at the log file, and I can see all these queries and all these actions that the database is doing. Great. I know when the CPU was very high. I see the timestamps for that on the dashboard. Let's look at the logs themselves. The my database, the MySQL slow database logs is what I'm referring to, and correlate that with the timestamps. And I did notice very heavy times of like 5-10 minutes of query and database activity related to one of the plugins that they actually updated. So I went ahead and I told them what's going on. I said, I would like to disable this one particular plugin, which means it's going to do this. It means you got to do other manual stuff, but I want to disable it and see what happens for the next couple of days. We disabled that plugin and the problem was resolved. So I told them, if you really rely on that plugin, you need to roll back, because they have backups. So I was proud of them for doing that. They have backups because they do backups like every day. Okay, very good move though, right? You want backups because of things like that. You want to roll back to a version that is working. So I told them, if this plugin that we just disabled, if it's critical, we need to roll back before you did the WordPress update and the plugin updates, because that plugin was the problem. It's the reason why there's a heavy CPU. And they said, oh, no, we can find another alternative for that plugin. That's not a big deal for us. And they have been a happy camper. So that is a very quick summary of really what that was all about. Now, I know that this has nothing to do with networking, but the troubleshooting strategy is still at play here. And that you still look at a problem with the perception of what is the problem point. Is either a recent change event, which is very likely the reason. Most issues that occur is because of a recent change event. That could be configuration, could be an outage. The internet went down, a power outage occurred. That is a recent change event. That counts as that, okay? Or it could be a software event, which can happen, or it could be a hardware event. The hardware events, again, for me, my experience, are very, very rare, but they can exist, and it's important to consider that as part of troubleshooting. So the point of me doing this video is to illustrate that it could be a network problem. It could be a server problem. The thinking is still the same for how you troubleshoot. You got to go into the mindset that is either a recent change, software, or hardware event. Got it. You want to then determine the actual points of interest. Okay. Like, what are the components that is part of that issue that it could be? Like, it could be the server. It could be the database. It could be the hosting provider. You want to list who are all the players. It's kind of like playing like a game of Clue. You want to find out, where did this murder take place, with which weapon and which room and things like that. You want to figure that out, but you need to get more information of who could be the possible, the usual suspects, basically. Okay. Then you want to start isolating to figure out which one it could be. And that's kind of what I was trying to describe here in this particular video. That I was encountered an issue that I had no clue how to troubleshoot. I'm a network guy. I troubleshoot networks in a particular way. But this was with a server and databases, stuff I never dealt with before. But I just kind of broke it down. I kind of gave you tips of that. Such as when things become non-responsive, it's either related to high CPU, memory, or network congestion. Whenever there's been something that's been non-responsive or something being down, that's of course equally important. But usually when things are non-responsive, but they are up, it is because of one of those things. That's why it's important, why I wanted to bring that up. So again, that's something to keep in mind for how you should build your troubleshooting strategy of going into it just like that and doing some of the things that we talked about in this episode. And we're done with this episode. So if you have any questions about being a network engineer, I'd love to hear from you. Post that below in the comments and your question will come up in a future episode on this channel. So thank you for watching this video. Please like, share, and subscribe to this channel and support us at routehub.net. We got a lot of cool stuff. And until next time, keep networking.